Monday started full of rumors and news that are stirring up Rams fans, and we need to talk about it. Today, I want to share 3 situations that need to be looked at closely by the front office. One of them involves a player who unexpectedly became extremely important last season and is now being mentioned in a scenario that almost no one saw coming. Another revolves around a familiar strategy that the Rams front office has been quietly refining over the years, a strategy that could once again reshape the roster without creating major headlines. And there's another story hidden behind all of this that could have a major impact on the future of Sean McVay's offense. I'm about to tell you all the details without wasting any time. But before continuing, make sure you've already hit the like button. But only do that if you agree that Sean McVay should continue as the Rams head coach. If you don't like the job he's doing, you can hit the dislike button. Either way, write this. Go Rams. My heart is blue and white. Or blue and yellow, whichever you think is better. What's happening behind the scenes right now could tell us a lot about how Les Snead and Sean McVay are thinking about the roster for yet another season with championship expectations. One of the biggest surprises among Rams fans involves tight end Colby Parkinson. And when this news came out, a lot of people had the same reaction. Wait, what? Because according to a recent discussion about possible roster decisions, Parkinson emerged as an unexpected candidate to be cut. And for Rams fans who followed last season closely, that idea seems confusing at first. Think about it. Parkinson was not just another player rotating through the offense. He quietly became one of Matthew Stafford's most effective red zone weapons. Last season, he posted 43 receptions and recorded 8 touchdown catches. 8. That production matters, especially in an offense where finding reliable targets near the goal line can completely change games. And what makes this conversation even more surprising is that Parkinson is not an aging veteran reaching the end of his career. He is entering this season at 27 years old. This wasn't a declining player hanging onto a roster spot. This was someone coming off arguably the most productive year of his NFL career. So why would his name even come up? Well, the answer may have less to do with performance and more to do with long-term roster construction. Because when you examine what the Rams have quietly done over the last 2 years, you start noticing something interesting. They have continued stacking talent at tight end. Tyler Higbee remains in the picture. Young players continue entering the room. Developmental pieces are being added. Future options are growing. And suddenly a difficult question appears. Are the Rams preparing for tomorrow, even if it creates uncomfortable decisions today? Because salary cap discussions are becoming unavoidable. Puka Nacua eventually needs attention. Byron Young eventually needs attention. Jared Verse looms in the future. More contracts are coming. More extensions are coming. The Rams may not be in a bad financial position right now, but championship windows force organizations to think several moves ahead. And if moving on from Parkinson creates cap flexibility, that explains why analysts are at least discussing the possibility. But here's where things become fascinating. Cutting him and trading him are completely different conversations. Because if a player is productive, entering his prime, and coming off a season where he scored 8 touchdowns, why lose him for nothing? Teams around the league always search for tight end help. A player with Parkinson's size, production, and red zone effectiveness would absolutely generate interest. And if Los Angeles truly felt younger options were ready, why not recover draft value? Why not add future assets? Why simply walk away? That's why this story has created confusion among Rams fans. Because on one side, there is logic involving future planning. But on the other side, there is the reality that Parkinson helped this football team win games. And Sean McVay knows something extremely important. Production in the red zone is not easy to replace. Now I want to talk about this here, because another storyline developing around the Rams may actually help explain how this front office thinks. For years, one of the most underrated strengths of the Sean McVay era has not been flashy signings or blockbuster trades. It has been talent identification, especially along the offensive line. While everyone pays attention to star players and offensive weapons, the Rams have quietly developed one of the most interesting roster-building philosophies in football. Find talented players. Find players whose value dropped elsewhere. Put them in the right system. Watch them succeed. And Rams fans have already seen examples. Austin Corbett arrived in Los Angeles carrying questions about his early career development. But inside Sean McVay's system, things changed. The Rams coaching staff unlocked consistency, and suddenly Corbett became a reliable starter and played a key role during the Super Bowl run. Then another example arrived. Kevin Dotson. And this move became one of the clearest examples of why Les Snead deserves enormous credit. Because before joining Los Angeles, Dotson wasn't viewed as one of the biggest additions in football. There wasn't massive hype. There weren't giant headlines. But almost immediately after arriving, everything changed. Dotson stabilized the interior offensive line. His physical style fit perfectly. The consistency appeared. And what had once looked like a weakness slowly became a strength. And now another possible name is entering discussions. James Daniels. Because Daniels represents the exact type of player the Rams historically target. Former second-round talent, athletic ability, versatility, experience, untapped upside, and maybe most importantly, potential value. Because the Rams have repeatedly shown they do not always chase the biggest available names. They chase fits. That matters. Especially because offensive line depth can completely change a season. Fans remember what injuries have done to this roster over recent years. Protection problems create offensive problems. Offensive problems create quarterback problems. And suddenly championship hopes disappear. Now I want to talk about this here because the deeper you look at these stories, the more they begin connecting. At first, discussing Colby Parkinson and discussing offensive line depth may sound like entirely separate conversations. But they actually revolve around one major idea. How much are the Rams prioritizing long-term sustainability over short-term comfort? Because championship teams constantly face difficult balancing acts. Do you hold on to proven contributors? Do you create room for younger players? Do you spend aggressively or trust your development process? That tension exists throughout this roster right now. Because the Rams already appear stronger entering this season. Their defense continues growing. Young players continue developing. Their roster no longer looks like a team trying to recover from difficult years. It looks like a team trying to win. And teams trying to win sometimes make surprising decisions. Maybe Parkinson remains exactly where he is. Maybe trade discussions eventually happen. Maybe James Daniels becomes another quiet move nobody notices until October arrives and fans suddenly realize the offensive line became stronger again. Because if history has taught us anything under Les Snead and Sean McVay, it's that some of the most important moves rarely create the biggest headlines immediately. Sometimes the smartest decisions happen quietly, and weeks later everyone realizes what was happening all along. But here's another layer Rams fans should consider. Sean McVay values trust. He values familiarity. He values players understanding assignments and timing. That becomes especially important when offensive systems evolve. Replacing a reliable target like Parkinson isn't just about replacing catches. It's about replacing chemistry, replacing situational awareness, replacing red zone timing, and on the offensive line, the same thing applies. Cohesion matters. Communication matters. One injury can force changes everywhere. That's why these quiet roster conversations may become much bigger than people realize, because they may reveal exactly how the Rams view this next chapter. Are they protecting today's roster, or are they already building tomorrow's? And Rams fans, now I want to hear from you. If the Rams had to choose between keeping proven production like Colby Parkinson or creating more flexibility for the future, what would you want Les Snead and Sean McVay to do?